Important last hour of trading. We'll see you then. Brian?
All right, Bill, thank you very much. Well, this morning on Squawk Box, David Einhorn said he is suing Apple. He wants them to pay out more of their massive cash pile. But is Apple really the best target? Certainly, while few can compare to Apple's total cash hoard of more than $137 billion, there are many companies out there that have a greater amount of cash as a percentage of their assets than Apple. And our great team here at CNBC dug out the 5 companies with the highest percentage of cash and short-term assets on the books as a percent of the overall business. Do you have your pen ready? No, really. Do you have it ready? All right. Here are the names. Look at this. Altera, $3 billion in cash short-term investments. That's about 65% of the total assets. Linear Technology, $1.3 billion in total cash short-term investments, about 67.5% of their total assets. Analog Devices. Noticing a trend here, folks? A lot of semiconductor and tech companies. $3.9 billion. That equals just under 70%. VeriSign, $1.6 billion in total cash. Again, dwarfed by Apple, but it's a 74% of their asset base. And shockingly, surprisingly, the big winner, Priceline, $4.7 billion in cash and short-term investments. That is 75.1% of their total assets, almost in a way, Mandy, if you buy this stock, and I'm not advocating buying Priceline because it's had a heck of a run anyway, whatever, it's not my job, is that
you're getting it cheap.
Three-fourths of the stock price is effectively cash or short-term investments. You're paying for about 25% of the business in the stock price. That's why we look at cash.
Yeah, it's really important too, Will. So are these the real cash cows, and are they clogging up the S&P is the question, right? Well, joining us now is Eric Marshall, Portfolio Manager at Hodges Capital Management. Eric, great to have you with us today. You know, we've made a lot here on CNBC of the fact that so many companies have been hoarding their cash. And if they are reluctant to get off that big cash pile, do we need to see a bit more activism, maybe even lawsuits, like, for example, what's being launched today by David Einhorn, to coerce them?
Well, possibly. You know, Mandy, at the Hodges Funds, you know, we've spent the last few years studying thousands of companies, and what we found is there's only really a few options that companies with these large cash positions can really do. They can reinvest in the business, they can make acquisitions, they can return the money to shareholders, or they can end up wasting or stealing the money. And the longer that it sits there on the balance sheet, earning a return below their cost of capital, you end up eroding shareholder value, and ultimately you become more susceptible to those last two options.
You know, is there a downside, Eric, to cash on one of the reasons we wanted to show our viewers this was that Apple gets all the attention, Google to, Microsoft to a point. Look at these little companies, right? Mid-sized companies, all this cash. Is that a benefit, or is there a downside to that in some ways?
Well, there are some businesses where maybe you're in a very cyclical industry where having a strategic cash position makes sense, because at the bottom of a cycle, it gives you the financial flexibility to take advantage of opportunities that maybe your competitors don't have. But in the case that you're sitting on very large amounts of cash, earning returns on that cash close to zero, you're really eroding shareholder value by earning a zero return on that cash. And in most cases, you're better off going in and buying back stock, which is, in a lot of cases, accretive to earnings per share, or simply returning that to shareholders in the form of a dividend.
Okay, we've got to leave it there, Eric, but thank you very much for joining us. And I just want to say he actually met with Microsoft just yesterday, I believe. They've got, what, 52% of cash as a percentage of total assets, and he says they are one company that definitely needs to address this.
Yeah, they should buy Holland immediately.
Yeah, or Australia.
That's a bubble. Time to kick off a new segment. We're calling it, say what? We're going to bring you the quote, tweet, or soundbite that really caught our attention. First up.